Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
After reciting the Tashahhud, Ta'awuz and Surah Al-Fatiha, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih V, Ayyadahullah Ta'ala bin Aziz stated, Hazrat Aisha radhiyallahu anha narrates that the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, a deceased person for whom 100 Muslims observe the funeral prayer, and all of whom intercede with Allah and ask Him for forgiveness for the deceased, will have their intercession accepted. There is a further narration that once when a funeral passed by and the deceased was praised by the people, and the Holy Prophet ﷺ said, paradise has become certain for him. I had thought that as I will lead 2 funeral prayers today, before mentioning the deceased, I would present some further ahadith as well as quotes from the promised Messiah ﷺ and Islamic jurisprudence on matters relating to the funeral process, preparation and burial. However, it would be impossible to present all the ahadith and extracts on this topic today, because so much material has been collated and sent in by various people concerning the deceased that there will be hardly any time to present even this. The reason for this is the vast material that has been received about the servant of the community and devotee of life who fulfilled his vow of devotion and was ever obedient to Khilafat. I intend to speak about him and also to lead his funeral prayer in absentia. I have perhaps selected 1/5 of that material, and I will likely not be able to present even that much. These incidents are in their own right a guide in many respects for every life devotee, for the members of the family of the promised Messiah ﷺ, for office bearers, and for the members of the community, and are worthy of emulation. As you are aware, a few days ago, respected Sahibzada Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib, son of Hazrat Sahibzada Mirza Aziz Ahmad Sahib radhiyallahu anhu, passed away at the age of 78. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Surely to Allah we belong, and to Him shall we return. His demise was caused by a heart attack. Although he had suffered from a heart disease for a long time, he passed away at home due to a cardiac arrest. Respected Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib was the paternal great-grandson of the promised Messiah alayhi salam. He was the grandson of Hazrat Mirza Sultan Ahmad Sahib, the eldest son of the promised Messiah alayhi salam. He was the son of Hazrat Mirza Aziz Ahmad Sahib. He was also the maternal great-grandson of Hazrat Mir Muhammad Ishaq Sahib. And he was also my brother-in-law. His mother, Sahibzadi Nasira Begum Sahiba, was the eldest daughter of Hazrat Mir Muhammad Ishaq Sahib. All these relationships are not the reason why he is worthy of mention. What makes these relations worthy of mention are his attributes and characteristics, which I will relate. He was a servant of the faith and a life devotee. Nowadays, when I appointed him to the post of Nazir-e-Ala, despite his weakness, illness, and suffering from the effect of his brother's demise, he fulfilled all his duties diligently, and he remained in attendance at the office. Likewise, he continued to attend events. A day before his demise, he attended a function at the Madrasatul Hifz, where certificates were to be distributed among the successful Hafiz. He then attended another event by Khudam al-Ahmadiyya in the evening. Even in the morning of the day of his demise, he visited many sick people at their homes. Further, he also offered all the 5 prayers at Masjid Mubarak. His life as a Waqf-e-Zindagi, i.e. life devotee, commenced in May 1962. He completed his MA in Political Science from Government College Lahore. Following this, he sat the examination for the Public Service Commission, the CCS, which he passed with flying colours. As a matter of fact, he personally told me that I merely sat this examination as people used to say that this is the very difficult examination, and it is very difficult to pass. I did so in order to devote my life after having been successful in worldly terms as well, and so that no one is able to say that I came here and dedicated my life as I was unable to find anything else. Despite the success, he did not pursue any government job, nor did he join the Public Service Commission. Rather, he devoted his life, and as I mentioned, he did so in 1962. Following this, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih II radiyallahu anhu entrusted him with the responsibility of serving as the managing editor of the Review of Religions. Furthermore, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih II radiyallahu anhu also told him that alongside his secular knowledge, which you have already acquired, you should also acquire religious knowledge. Hence, he studied hadith and religious matters from Hazrat Sayyid Mir Daud Ahmad Sahib. Hazrat Sayyid Mir Daud Ahmad Sahib was the editor of the Review of Religions, as well as his maternal uncle. Initially, he was named Mirza Sayyid Ahmad Sahib. Hazrat Muslim Maud radiyallahu anhu later named him Mirza Ghulam Ahmad upon the request of his mother. She had read an account in Siratul Mahdi, and in relation to this, she thought that he should not be given the name Mirza Sayyid Ahmad. Mirza Sayyid Ahmad's brother from his first mother passed away at a young age. He also came here to study in the UK and was the class fellow of Mirza Muzaffar Ahmad Sahib. She also told Hazrat Muslim Maud radiyallahu anhu that if his name is changed, then Hazrat Mirza Aziz Ahmad Sahib will be saddened. Hence, he should also be consoled. Hazrat Muslim Maud radiyallahu anhu said that in that case, we will give him a name which will not grieve his father. Following this, he named him Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, and he also said that we will call him by the name Ahmad. The reason for this is that the promised Messiah ﷺ passed away not too long ago, and it is very difficult for me to call him by the name Ghulam Ahmad. In 1964, his marriage was settled with my sister, and Maulana Jalaluddin Shams Sahib led their nikah, as Hazrat Khalifatul Masih II radiyallahu anhu was ill in those days. He has 3 sons and 2 daughters. 2 sons are life devotees. Mirza Fazl Ahmad Sahib is the Nazir Taaleem, Director of Education, in Rabwa, whereas Mirza Nasir Anam is the principal in Jamia UK here. Mirza Ihsan Ahmad is in America. Even though he has a secular job, he is also serving the Jamaat there as the Finance Secretary in the National Amila, as well as the Officer Jalsa Gah. One of his daughters is Amatul Wali Zubda, and the other daughter is Amatul Ali Zahra, who is married to Mir Mahmud Ahmad Sahib, son of Mir Masood Ahmad Sahib. He is also a life devotee and currently serving as the Nazir Sehat. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib served as the Nazir Taaleem, additional Nazir Islah wa Irshad Muqami for several years, and he also served as the Nazir Diwan. As a matter of fact, he served as a Nazir Diwan until he was appointed as a Nazir Ala, that is from 1996 until 2018. Furthermore, he also served as the Sadr Majlis Karpurdaz from 2012 until 2018. Then, following the demise of Mirza Khurshid Ahmad Sahib, I appointed him as Nazir Ala, the local president, as well as the Sadr Anjuman Ahmadiyya. Even prior to this, during the time of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV Rahimahullah, he was enabled to serve as the acting Nazir Ala as well as the acting local president on several occasions. Similarly, he was a member of the Committee for Waqf-e-Jadid and served as the president of the Committee for Waqf-e-Jadid from 2016 until 2018. As part of Ansarullah, he was included in the Amila of various regions. Furthermore, he also served as the vice president of Safedom, following which he became the vice president. Then he was enabled to serve as the president of Ansarullah Pakistan from 2004 until 2009. As part of Khudam al-Ahmadiyya, he served as Muhtamid during various years. Furthermore, he served as the vice president of Khudam al-Ahmadiyya Markaziyya, following which he also served as the president of Khudam al-Ahmadiyya Markaziyya from 1975 until 1979. He also served as the editor of the Review of Religions after Mir Dawood Ahmad Sahib. He rendered his service as the private secretary for Hazrat Khalifatul Masih III Rahimahullah. He was the president of the committee for the Khilafat Library, as well as the president of the Buyutul Hamd Society, Rabwa. He also served as the director of Fazl-e Umar Foundation. Similarly, he was enabled to render his services and offer duties during Jalsa Salanas for many years. As long as Jalsas were held in Rabwa, he served as the Vice Officer Jalsa Salana, as well as Nazim Mihnat, Supervisor for Diligent Work. The task of Nazim Mihnat demands great effort, where they have to deal with labourers who are non-Ahmadis, such as those who prepare the roti, i.e. the naan, bread, and dough, and they also have to deal with ill-mannered people. To supervise them properly is a great task during Jalsa. By the grace of Allah the Exalted, he was enabled to render this service in the most dignified manner. He was the president of the Committee of Tabarukat. He was a member of the Committee of the Register of Narrations of the Companions of the Promised Messiah alayhi salam. He was a member of the Board of Jurisprudence. He was a member of the Committee of the History of Ahmadiyyat. He was the Secretary of the Khilafat Committee. He also served as the supervising managing director of Al-Shirkatul Islamiyah. He was entrusted with many responsibilities, such as overseeing these committees alongside the tasks of his department. In 1989, he, alongside Mirza Khurshid Ahmad Sahib and 2 other workers of the Anjuman, had the honour of being imprisoned for a few days in the cause of Allah under the Article 298C. Following the tragedy that occurred in Lahore on 28th of May 2010, where many Ahmadis were martyred, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib served as the Emir of the delegation that was immediately sent to Lahore at the time by Naziala Sahib in order to console and reassure the Jamaat, to visit the families of those martyred, and in order to visit those that were injured. He had already reached Lahore when the martyrs were being taken to the hospital. He stayed in Lahore for approximately 2 weeks. Furthermore, he would personally supervise the arrangements that were made for the Jamaat in Lahore. This delegation went to Darul Zikr and fulfilled its responsibilities with great awareness and diligence. He also supervised the treatment of those that were wounded and also visited the homes of those that were martyred. He called a meeting of the Amala in Darul Zikr on the very same day and also announced the election of the new Emir. He led the Maghrib and Isha prayers in that very mosque so that people would remain assured that the mosque was not going to be abandoned following the attack. When he was in hospital there in order to visit and speak to those that were wounded, Salman Tasir Sahib, the governor at the time, came to visit him. He expressed his condolence. However, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib diverted his attention towards the fact that the attack was a result of hate-filled propaganda being spread against the Jamaat. And that as governor, it is his duty to pay attention towards this. Similarly, the Provincial Minister for Minorities, Javed Michael, also came in order to express his condolence. Even on this occasion, he said to the aforementioned minister, with great resolve, that you have come in order to express your condolence, and we thank you for that. However, it should remain evident that we do not at all consider ourselves to be a minority. We are Muslims. Upon this, the minister said that as a matter of fact, I am also the Minister of Human Rights and have come here in that capacity as well. Furthermore, he said to him that he should raise his voice in the cabinet in order for the government to eliminate the campaign against the Jamaat. Nevertheless, this was an occasion where he diverted their attention towards their responsibilities. In fact, our attention is ever drawn towards Allah the Exalted, and it is only He who can improve these circumstances, inshallah, God willing. On 29th and 30th of May, they also held a press conference there. On 2nd of June, they participated in a live program on Express News called Point Blank, from 11 o'clock until 12 o'clock in the evening. They gave interviews for the Swiss National TV, BBC and other services such as Voice of America, Sahara TV, Channel 5 and Dunya TV, etc. Nevertheless, this delegation remained there until 12th of June and returned following this. During this trip, he clearly told them that we are Muslims and no one can deprive us from being Muslims. In one of his sermons, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV Rahimahullah narrated one of his dreams. While speaking about this dream and mentioning Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib, he stated, I was thinking about increasing my engagements, and that night I saw Mian Ahmad Sahib in the dream. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib always gives me good advice. Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV Rahimahullah says, it was Mian Sahib who advised me regarding the Holy Quran that instead of writing notes towards the end of Tafsir-e-Saghir, I should produce a new translation of the Holy Quran. By the grace of Allah the Almighty, He enabled me to finish this translation, and a lot of issues were resolved through it. There are other things in this very comprehensive dream that Mian Ahmad Sahib shared with Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV rahimahullah, and how he could be of assistance. There was a discussion about marital issues and employment for boys and girls, as well as other suggestions. Once, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV rahimahullah wrote a letter to Mian Ahmad Sahib which read, "I have received a letter in which you expressed your worry. I will very humbly pray for you. God Almighty has instilled honesty and felicity in your nature, and He never lets such a human perish. May Allah the Almighty continue to bless you with immediate spiritual progress, and may He grant you the paradise of obtaining peace of mind." Similarly, in another letter, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV rahimahullah wrote to him, saying, "I remember you in my prayers. This is your right, and you are also one of my prominent helpers in terms of serving the faith. May Allah the Almighty always keep you under His protection, grant you health and security. May you never face any worry or anxiety." Then he wrote, "Also remember me in your prayers. It is my ardent desire that people accept Ahmadiyyat soon." Then he wrote, "MTA is being transmitted worldwide and serving as a vital instrument. It is practically fulfilling my desire. So produce such amazing programs for MTA that become a source of guidance everywhere, and Satan and its evil forces are seized completely during Ramazan." Ahmadul Quddus Sahiba, his wife, says, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih II radiyallahu anhu was ill. He would go there for duty at night on a daily basis. This is prior to their marriage. Similarly, he was very much attached with Hazrat Khalifatul Masih III rahimahullah during his Khilafat. Hazrat Khalifatul Masih III rahimahullah trusted him greatly, and in 1974, both Mirza Khurshid Ahmad Sahib and he stayed very close for several days and nights. They did not have permission to even return home. In 1973 and particularly in 1974, and also after becoming the Sadr of Khudam al-Ahmadiyya, he was working with Hazrat Khalifatul Masih III rahimahullah and would not return home for a long time. Even before that, he would leave in the morning and return home at around 10 in the evening. Once during an ijtima, when he requested Hazrat Khalifatul Masih III rahimahullah to lead the pledge, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih III rahimahullah responded by saying that you should lead the pledge, and Hazrat Khalifatul Masih III rahimahullah made him lead the pledge. Hazrat Khalifatul Masih III rahimahullah repeated the words of the pledge and repeated after him just like the other Khuddam. At the time of Mirza Khurshid Ahmad Sahib's demise, I stated that Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV rahimahullah had mentioned that these two individuals are very loyal to me and to every Khilafat. Mian Ahmad Sahib had written to me about this, but had also informed me verbally. He hesitated to include his name in this, so I did not mention his name during the Friday prayers. Only Mirza Khurshid Ahmad Sahib's name was mentioned. But in actuality, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV rahimahullah had said about Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib and Mirza Khurshid Ahmad Sahib that they are faithful to every Khalifa and to him as well. He was called when Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV's ring was lost to help him find it. He would say, Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV rahimahullah mentioned my name Ahmad first, and then he said Khurshid. They are both amongst those upon whom I put my trust, and they are faithful to every Khalifa. His wife says, he would cry and weep whilst offering his nawafil with such intensity that would shake the entire house. He would pray for the Holy Prophet ﷺ, the Promised Messiah ﷺ, the Khalifa of the time, the entire Jamaat, his parents and siblings, his children and relatives. He would repeat certain words of Surah Al-Fatiha countless times. He had a strong relation with his parents and siblings, but there was never any injustice between them. He ensured that his family respected his wife and that his wife established a relationship with his family members. That is to say, he maintained a balance between these two relations. He expressed gratitude upon receiving the smallest gifts. He would either return the favor by sending a gift to the sender, or go to the sender's house and thank them in person or write to them. One of his great qualities was that once he was entrusted with a task, he would not rest until it was completed. His knowledge was vast and his memory was excellent. She says, whether it was a narration or deciphering family links, he would know. She says, I was fond of travelling, and he would certainly take me out whether our financial situation was stable or not. He would do so to fulfill the due rights towards me as his wife. His wife, who is my sister, writes, the wife of Abdur Rahman Anwar Sahib says, Abdur Rahman Anwar Sahib saw in a dream that the entrance of his mother's house had been decorated with 2 vines of countless roses, and there are countless beautiful flowers there. By the grace of Allah the Almighty, this dream was fulfilled. His wife writes, upon receiving his salary, the first thing he would spend on would be chanda, and after that he would use his salary for other expenses. He would offer his wasiyat payments on the property from the earnings that both him and his wife had received from our mother and father. After offering chanda, he would inform me I had offered the chanda on the property. Hence, in this way, he paid the entire chanda amount that was due on my property, and this was never a burden upon me. Even for his children, he bought houses for his son and daughter and paid the wasiyat amount due on their properties as well. Many people have written to me, and I have been witness to this myself, that these 2 brothers always remain together. Our sister writes that the wife of Mirza Daud Ahmed Sahib would always say that whenever I saw Ahmed and Khurshid going somewhere together, I could tell there was some issue within the Jamaat, which is why both of them are going. At the time of every crisis, they would act with great forbearance, understanding and wisdom. He was very obedient to Khilafat. Despite being very weak, he attended the Jalsa here. I told him to use a walking stick, so he began using it immediately, as it now had been instructed. A few years ago, I instructed the Naziran that they should visit different Jamaats and convey my message of greetings in every house. The province of Sindh was allocated to him. His wife says that when he returned, he was walking with a limp. So when I inquired as to the reason, he replied, I fell from the stairs of a house. When it was shown in Fazle Umar Hospital, the bone in his small toe was cracked, and there was a slight crack in the ankle of his other foot, or it was slightly injured. There was a slight fracture. She says, I asked him if he was in pain. He replied, I felt pain, But as the Khalifa's instruction was to convey his message door to door, I didn't feel pain for the 11 days. Hence, he returned having completed his task. His elder son writes that after the migration of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV rahimahullah, the cassette for his Friday sermon came to Ahmad Sahib first, and he would gather everyone in a very organized manner and relay the sermon before them. Even after the sermons were shown on MTA, he would especially listen to them again and would ensure that all members of the house would listen to the sermons, including the workers of the house. Furthermore, he would arrange for loudspeakers or even a TV in order for those working outside to listen to the sermon. His son narrates an incident that when he went to the Mayo Hospital in Lahore, there was a rush and those in the ambulances were setting their own rates. He then announced out loud that Sadr Anjuman Ahmadiyya will make arrangements for all the burials in Rabba for the coffins to be taken there, and if there are any other places you wish to take them, then God willing, you will have permission to do so. In any case, the people were much relieved after hearing this. He visited the homes of all the injured, the martyred, and made food arrangements for all those not earning. There were some reports from certain agencies that certain people were after him. The agencies notified that there is a danger to his life. So he was called back to return from there. However, the following Friday after the 28th of May, he went there again to Darul Zikr and led the Friday prayer himself, so that the members of the Jamaat remained resolute. He would take great care of the poor and his old friends. During his youth, one of his class fellows was unable to complete his studies and began working as a painter in various houses. He took a lot of care of him, and after his demise, Mia Sahib looked after his children as well. In 1989, he was arrested, and the reason was that Khudam al-Ahmadiyya were holding an Ijtima, i.e. a gathering. Mia Khurshid Ahmad Sahib was Nazir Amur-e-Amma. At the time, he was outside Rabwa, and the magistrate called him while Mia Ghulam Ahmad Sahib was serving as his deputy. The magistrate told him to close down the Ijtima. He replied by saying, "Since you gave us written permission to hold the Ijtima, we will end it only when you give it in writing." He said that it is a verbal instruction for you to end it. He answered by saying, "We will not terminate it based on a verbal statement." Thus, in the evening, Mia Khurshid Ahmad Sahib returned, and he too was called. He gave the same answer, and as a result, as I mentioned previously, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib spent a few days in prison. He was arrested and put to prison. His daughter writes, "Our father strived to the utmost to remain loyal to Khilafat, and also advised us to do the same. Once my father very anxiously requested me for prayers, and continued to remind me for several days. I was not aware of the situation, but I was under the impression that the Khalifa was slightly upset. As a result, my father prayed so fervently that it left a lasting impression on me, and my state became the same as my father. Then, when Hazrat Khalifatul Masih IV rahimahullah migrated, his mother Sayyidah Nasira Begum Sahiba was very ill, and her condition was deteriorating. The night of the migration seemed to be the last night of his mother, but he was busy in the affairs of the Jamaat and the migration that he was unable to even go to her room and continued dealing with the affairs of the Jamaat. Similarly, in the time of Khilafat-e-Khamsa, his bond of obedience and loyalty always remained the same with me. In fact, when he was asked by his son, he responded by saying, "Do you not see the truthfulness of Khilafat, and how the support of Allah is with Khilafat-e-Khamsa. One of his sons writes that he would wake us up for prayers and was normally very strict in this. However, in his final days, he would do so with such kindness which showed his affection. His son writes that whatever letter he and his wife would receive from his mother and from the Khalifa, he would copy them and place them in a file. Then he would entrust them all to his children, telling him that these are valuable assets of our time, so keep these letters with you. Mirza Anas Ahmad Sahib relates, when Mian Ahmad Sahib passed away, I saw in a dream that Mian Ahmad and Mian Khurshid have gone towards Allah the Almighty, and they are meeting with the Holy Prophet ﷺ and the promised Messiah ﷺ. In that moment, it was a longing of mine for Allah to make my meeting the same as this. So I said, O Allah, call me also into your nearness. God Almighty said, come forward. He then says that I have had a long-lasting relationship with Mian Ahmad Sahib, and we are approximately of the same age. When I look at the good deeds he has carried out, I am embarrassed, asking God Almighty to grant me the same opportunity. Whenever he was upset with me over something, he would always be the first to beg pardon. Likewise, he writes that the state of his prayers was such that when I saw him praying with such fervency that I would become envious. He was extremely intelligent and responsible. He was enabled to attend all 5 prayers in the mosque, help the poor, and be of use to them, and exert all his strength in spending in the way of Allah. Chaudhry Hamidullah Sahib wrote that he possessed great insight in all matters, a man of great advice, and more often than not his suggestions proved to be the decisive in all consultations. He possessed deep understanding of the literature of the community and its history. Whenever the occasion would arise, he would be in the front line in rendering his services. During the turmoil of 1974, for several months he fully assisted Hazrat Khalifatul Masih III rahimahullah. He was present in all the international trips of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih III rahimahullah. On one occasion, he was part of Hazur's delegation representing the Central Majlis Khudam al-Ahmadiyya. One of his workers in Qadian, Akram Sahib, writes that I went to pay my condolences to him at the death of his brother Mirza Khurshid Ahmad Sahib, and he said with great benevolence to also pray for him when Qadian, and to request the other elders to pray for him as he felt alone after the death of Mian Khurshid, and that may Allah enable him to fully assume his duties. In this way he would continue to request for prayers. Whenever he would travel to Qadian, he would visit the homes of the Darwish. Similarly, he would strive to serve the widows and orphan children of the Darwish. He had great knowledge of the sacred sites around Qadian. Akram Sahib writes that whenever he would reach Qadian, he would offer nawafil prayers where the Prophet of Islam used to pray, and would advise me to do the same, saying, "You people are fortunate to live in this holy site, therefore offer your prayers here profusely." He rendered great services to Khudam al-Ahmadiyya as the president and visited the youth in all areas. Gondal Sahib writes that Mian Ahmad Sahib once went to visit Sindh, but there were certain places where the vehicle could not pass, nor could the cars. He went on foot through the jungles to reach the Khudam, which deeply impressed the Khudam, and even now they remember that. Similarly, Asfandyar Manib Sahib, the Department of History in charge, writes that he was a special benefit for the history of Ahmadiyyat. He was a pillar of the consultational panel. He would look at the historical manuscripts with great attention and would give very valuable guidance and advice. He was well versed in the background and minute details of the events of the community. Muhammadin Naz Sahib, the additional Nazir Islah wa Irshad, writes that when he was appointed as the Nazir-e-Allah, I entered his room and he was sat on the seat of Nazarat-e-Uliya. His state was one worth seeing, that his eyes were filled with tears, his face seemed overwhelmed and absorbed by the emotions of prayer, and with great humility he requested me to pray also. Zahid Qureshi Sahib writes, I was once sent to him while he was serving as the president of Khudam al-Ahmadiyya for some work by the Qaid of Khudam al-Ahmadiyya Lahore. I went to his office in Awan-e-Mahmud and handed over the documents. It was mid-afternoon during the summer season, and after I received the documents, he asked me if I had eaten. I replied that after completing this work, I will go to Dar-o-Ziyafat and eat. He replied, saying, No, come with me, just sit here for a little while, and the arrangements will be made. I thought that perhaps arrangements for food were going to be made in Awan-e-Mahmud. However, after a short while, he went outside, took out his cycle, and asked me to sit behind him. On the way, I even said that I will get off and go to Dar-o-Ziyafat as it comes on the way. However, he said, No, remain seated. He rode the cycle home, and in the scorching heat, and fed me in his house, and after that gave me permission to leave. He had a personal bond with every khadim while he was serving as the president of Khudam al-Ahmadiyya. Similarly, many people wrote that they learnt many of the skills and methods of how to work from him. Dr. Sultan Mubashir Sahib writes, We learnt many techniques of how to work from him. It was his practice to conduct all his work in a very meticulous manner. Dr. Sultan Mubashir Sahib writes, After the anti-Ahmadi ordinance was passed in 1984, Mir Ahmed Sahib was overseeing the arrangements to lodge an appeal in the Federal Shariat Court of Pakistan. I recall that once Mir Sahib came to Awan-e-Mahmud and I was playing badminton there at the time. He said to me, We sometimes require certain books in the Lahore court which need to be provided from our library. It is your responsibility to take them there. Therefore, whichever book they required from Rabwa, they would note them on the phone from Lahore, and Mir Sahib himself would also personally assist the library staff with great effort in searching for those books and arrange for them to be delivered. It was not the case that he simply gave the instruction on the phone and left, but it was his practice to then actively take part in the work. He would take great care of orphans and widows. Just today I met a lady, Bushra Sahiba, who lives in Rabwa in the outdoor clinic. She suffers from diabetes and blood pressure, and after checking her results, I told her that by the grace of God Almighty your results are completely normal. However, upon hearing this, she began to cry. I looked at her in astonishment, and she said in an emotional tone, Dr. Sahib, no doubt my diabetes have improved, but 2 individuals who took on the expenses of all my medical treatment have gone. Mirza Khurshid Ahmed Sahib and Mirza Ghulam Ahmed Sahib have both departed this world. I reassured her that by the grace of God Almighty her medical treatment will continue as it is by the Nizam-e-Jamaat. However, she kept on remembering them and crying. Imam of Fazl Mosque, Atal Mujib Rashid Sahib states, Towards the end of 1973, when Hazrat Khalifatul Masih III Rahimahullah appointed me as the national president of Khudam al-Ahmadiyya after seeking consultation from the Majlis-e-Shura of Khudam al-Ahmadiyya, Mirza Ghulam Ahmed Sahib at that time was serving as deputy president. Owing to his vast experience, I also recommended his name to serve as deputy president in my executive committee. Mirza Ghulam Ahmed Sahib was senior to me in respect to knowledge, experience, age and status. However, he was appointed as deputy president. He worked with great humility and extended his cooperation in every task. At no point did he ever express his seniority over me. Shahid Abbas Sahib from Malaysia writes, I performed the Bai'at, i.e. the oath of initiation, in 2005 and went to visit the headquarters. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib was going to his office and the Muallim, Danyal Sahib, who was with me, said, he is a very close relative of the Khalifa of the time. You should request him for prayers. I approached him and told him that I have accepted Ahmadiyyat from a sect among the Shia and request you to pray for me. He embraced me and then firmly gripped my hand and said with a very passionate voice, should I not inform you of a person whom I also present requests for prayers? I inquired who that is. He replied, the Khalifa of the time. You should write to him for prayers. This new Ahmadi convert further states, the love and passion I witnessed in his eyes for the Khalifa of the time was extremely impressive, and those few moments have become etched in my memory. Anjum Parvez Sahib, who is serving as a missionary here in Arabic desk, writes, one day Chaudhry Muhammad Ali Sahib told me that once Mian Ahmed Sahib was cycling in the intense heat of the mid-afternoon searching for someone who worked as a painter. He asked him who he was searching for and he replied, I have prescribed someone the wrong homeopathic medication and now I am searching for him before he eats it and I may give him the correct medication. Therefore I am searching for him myself so that I can give him the correct medicine. However, I cannot find him. He discharged every responsibility he had and the many roles he was assigned to serve in an excellent manner. People have written many accounts in regards to this. Similarly, those who worked with him in the office have said that he would get work from them in a very caring and loving manner. He would show compassion as much as he possibly could to those who were facing difficulty, suffering from grief, and the needy, and he would seek to alleviate their difficulties. He had a very fine understanding of matters and had such God-given faculties that he would very quickly get to the core of the matter. And as I mentioned earlier, that it was his practice that he would then act on it immediately. Similarly, just a few days prior to his demise, a few youths came to the office with a complaint that some of the security personnel employed for the security of the headquarters had acted unjustly and hit them or treated them harshly. One of them had sustained many injuries. He, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib, asked him that whether he had been to hospital and get it checked. He replied no, and so he said, first go to the hospital. The offices are closed today. However, when they open again, I shall inshallah conduct a full investigation, and regardless of whether the culprit is an office bearer, they will be punished. He started this inquiry straight away and sent the youths to hospital to get treatment. Iqbal Bashir Sahib writes, when Mian Ahmed Sahib was appointed as Nazir Diwan, Director of Human Resources and Records, there was only a few office staff which consisted of 2 office clerks and an assistant. Many a times when the workload would increase, Mian Ahmed Sahib would come and sit with us and help with the checking and dispatching of the letters. Riaz Mahmud Bajwa Sahib, who was a missionary and now retired, writes, one day I was sitting in the office and during our conversation, a degree of strictness appeared in Mian Sahib's tone. I did not have any resentment and nor was I surprised at this, as such things can happen. I came home and later in the evening there was a knock on the door. I opened the door and to my complete surprise, Mian Sahib was standing there and said, Today in the office I spoke to you in a rather strict manner. Therefore I have come to apologize. I was not even aware that he did so, and since then I am in admiration of his great character." Similarly, an assistant worker and an employee wrote the same, that he first told them off, but then later apologized. A similar incident has been written by someone, saying, "I committed an error in the office and was told off as well. Later at home, while I was reciting istighfar, i.e. seeking forgiveness, the door knocked. I went outside and saw that Mia Sahib was standing there and said, 'I spoke to you today in a strong manner and therefore have come to apologize.' He then turned and sat back in his car and left." Mubashir Yar Sahib writes, "I was the editor of the Khalid magazine, and the late Mahmud Bengali Sahib had come from Australia, and I took his interview. He related an incident that when Mia Ahmed Sahib was the president, i.e. Khudam al-Ahmadiyya, Mahmud Bengali Sahib was in charge of Tarbiti classes. When the Tarbiti class was over, he presented the total budget, and a few anna, which means a few pence, had been overspent, and the bill was rejected by the president, stating, 'This bill cannot be approved.' He says, 'I personally went to him and said that this is not a huge issue, only a few pence have been overspent, and this is not a huge amount. If you are unable to give it, then I shall pay for it from my own pocket.' He replied, 'It is not a case of spending from your own pocket. However, the fact is that I want to make you understand that you should be cautious when spending from the Jamaat's money, and you should follow the rules and regulations of the Jamaat. Therefore, if you required more money, then you should have sought permission first, and then spent the money.' Bengali Sahib says, 'This had a lasting impact on me.' He also had a great bond with Khilafat. Once, an issue regarding the zakat not being applicable on horses, I believe, was being discussed in the Judiciary Committee, and a report had been compiled. However, I rejected this report and said that it should be reviewed again and requires a consensus. Many committees were formed, and each time long debates would ensue amongst the scholars, and they would fail to arrive at a conclusion. The president then made him the head of the committee, and again some of the scholars came with great preparation in order to present an alternative view to what I had initially said. He heard the discussion for a short while, and then Mubashir Yar Sahib states that with a very passionate voice he said, 'When the Khalifa of the time has made a decision, then how can we even think to say something against this?' He rejected all their arguments and did not care how eminent the scholar was and what they were saying. He continues by saying, 'When it came to the history of the Jamaat and incidents that are connected with the Jamaat, he was like an encyclopedia.' He says, 'At present I am writing about the life and character of the Promised Messiah alayhi salam. If I would ever encounter any difficulty, I would consult him, as he was well versed in this subject and was an authority on these matters.' Similarly, he had a vast knowledge of the historical sites around Qadian. Whilst in Qadian, if anyone requested him to show the historical sites of Qadian, he would happily grant them at all. On one occasion, he had twisted his ankle and was injured. However, despite this, he did not let anyone know and continued to show them around. Bashir Yar Sahib says, 'When he began to climb the stairs, we realized, in fact, he himself stated that he felt pain in his ankle. We were embarrassed at the fact that we had caused him so much pain.' Similarly, there are several other incidents. Whenever he was sent for an official duty, he did not think about any obstacles in his way. On one occasion, there was a disagreement between two parties regarding a certain official matter. He was sent to reconcile the two parties. However, the journey to reach them was difficult, There was no through access by car. Mirza Khurshid Ahmad Sahib and Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib, along with the missionaries, sat in a trailer of a tractor. Along the route, there was a section of the journey where it was dangerous for the tractor to proceed. After disembarking, they then resumed the journey by foot and eventually reached their destination. When they reached the village, they assembled everyone in the mosque and pronounced their verdict and also prayed for the matter. By the grace of Allah, when the people saw that they travelled from afar, having undertaken a difficult journey, the feud that had lasted several years was resolved due to his sacrifice and prayers. There are many other incidents similar to this, and others that are new, but there is not enough time to relate them all. He would always show love to his workers, and this was mentioned by all of them. He would care for even the smallest of their needs. He then served as Naib Nazir Talim. It is narrated, whenever an allowance of any student was rejected by the Khalifa, owing to certain circumstances, he would say that you should attribute the approval for student allowances or other good news to the Khalifa, and if someone's application had been rejected or any disapproval should be attributed to us. Zafar Ahmad Zafar Sahib, who is a missionary, also narrated the incident that when he fractured his foot, he did not worry for it even though it began to swell up. Salim Sahib writes, during the Khilafat of Hazrat Khalif al-Masih III, rahimahullah, he served as private secretary. When the post would pile up, he would say for everyone to collate all the post and distribute it again. In the distribution, he would take a pile for himself. As private secretary, he would take more post than all of our office workers. He would respond and complete all the work before even we would. He had a special skill for drafting letters, and his handwriting was very neat and organized. As I mentioned earlier, he had a special ability to draft letters. A worker in Wakalat-e-Mal Sani writes, we were writing up the history of Tehreek-e-Jadid, including about financial sacrifice. After ironing out the mistakes and preparing the final version, the Wakilul Mal asked me to give the final copy to Mia Sahib so that he can check for any mistakes. I thought to myself that once we give this 150 or 200 page book to Mia Sahib, we will be relieved for the next 4 or 5 days. He then writes, when I reached the office the next morning, the envelope was on my table, complete with all the corrections. He had managed to complete all the corrections in one night and return the document. This was his level of efficiency, which is an example for all workers. He also served as a Sadr Majlis Karpardaz and would thoroughly assess the matters pertaining to this office. Samiullah Zahid Sahib writes, when he served as Nazir Islah Irshad Muqami, he asked me to make a list of all the families of the missionaries. When I gave him the list, he went to visit all the families and said to them, since your husbands are carrying out their missionary work in the field, if you have any worries, concerns, or if you need anything, you should not worry them. Instead, come and tell me. Faridur Rahman Sahib, who is a worker in Wakalat Tamil wa Tanfiz, writes, I worked on composing Chaudhry Muhammad Ali Sahib's book. When I prepared the final draft, Chaudhry Sahib sent me to Mir Ghulam Ahmad Sahib. When I presented him the book, I remained behind for a short while. He asked me, what is the matter? Nervously, I said to him that my mother had an operation. He then writes, I had only said this much, that he immediately asked how much money I required, and took the checkbook of the treasury from the drawer and placed it on his desk. I told him that I require 7,000 rupees, that if you can lend me the money now, you can deduct it later from my salary. He then gave me the money from his personal account and said, I will also pray. You do not need to worry whether it needs to be deducted from your salary or not. Take this, and if you require any more, do not hesitate to ask me. Hafiz Sahib has also written stating that he had a special connection with Khilafat, which was visible on all occasions. When he was made Nazir-e-Allah in his first address to the Naziran, i.e. the directors of the Anjuman, he said, I do not need to request you for your cooperation, as you are all serving in your capacities. However, since Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Ayyadullah Ta'ala bin Nasr al-Aziz has appointed me, I am in urgent need of your prayers, as it is extremely difficult to follow in the footsteps of certain people. Similarly, when he was transferred from Nizarat-e-Diwan and appointed as Nazir-e-Allah, one of the workers says, before leaving from the office, he personally came to meet us and requested permission to leave. Hearing these words made us emotional, and we said, Mir Sahib, stay here with us or take us with you. At this he smiled and said, how can I take you with me? I am only going on the command of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih. Then after a short while, I will meet my Creator with His permission. May Allah the Almighty elevate his status. He has departed to go to a place where each one of us will go at the appointed time. However, fortunate are those who spend their lives striving to attain the pleasure of God Almighty. May Allah the Almighty elevate his status and enable his children to continue his virtuous deeds. Also, all the waqfeen and office bearers should strive to fulfill their waqf with sincerity, just as he did, and also continue their services. May Allah grant everyone the opportunity to fulfill their pledges. May Allah continue to grant the Jamaat pious and righteous workers who serve with sincerity and passion in the future as well. The second funeral that I will lead today is of the Banu Farokht Sahiba, who passed away on 26th of January at the age of 47. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. To him we belong, and to him shall we return. She passed away due to high blood pressure and an infection in her intestine. Although she underwent an operation, however, she passed away after 1 week. She was ill for quite some time, and when she was 15 years old, both her kidneys stopped functioning properly. Despite this, from the time she accepted Ahmadiyyat, she would offer her prayers on time, as well as offering the Tahajjud prayers. She would regularly recite the Holy Quran, despite having converted from Christianity. She accepted Islam in 2004, and since then, she was regular in her obligatory prayers, reciting of the Quran, and also Tahajjud prayers. Assessing the condition of the Muslims, she realized that there was a major issue. She had accepted the Holy Prophet ﷺ before Ahmadiyyat. She later became an Ahmadi Muslim. she began to research about the signs of the latter days as mentioned by the Holy Prophet ﷺ, and thus accepted Ahmadiyyat. She said herself that she felt as though she was edging towards her end, to the extent that when she accepted Islam, she felt as though she was on the verge of death. Her doctors, who are non-Muslims, would say that ever since she has found Allah, it has breathed new life into her. Before accepting Ahmadiyyat, she developed hepatitis C. However, having performed the Bai'at, God Almighty granted her a miraculous recovery. She would mention her miraculous healing to the members of her family. She has met me on 2 occasions and always exhibited sincerity and loyalty. Amir Sahib writes, "When I met her a few days ago, she had prepared a meal for me. When I expressed to her that there was no need to go to all this trouble, she said that it was the first time I had come to her house, and that I had come as a representative of the Khalifa. In her home, she would always have MTA on TV. May Allah the Almighty elevate her status and forgive her by showering His mercy on her. May Allah fulfill her wish and desires, which was for her family to accept Ahmadiyyat, and always exhibited sincerity and loyalty." Amir Sahib writes, "When I met her a few days ago, she had prepared a meal for me. When I expressed to her that there was no need to go to all this trouble, she said that it was the first time I had come to her house, and that I had come as a representative of the Khalifa. In her home, she would always have MTA on TV. May Allah the Almighty elevate her status and forgive her by showering His mercy on her. May Allah fulfill her wish and desires, which was for her family to accept Ahmadiyyat."
الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر.